Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics in the Cross, the greatest streamers you have never heard of. I am one of your hosts for today, Cross, alongside my partner in crime, Nitro. So this is
shaved head.
So this is so bizarre. I am looking at our screen fine on Stream Elements. Off to the side, my Discord is like freaking out.
Is it really?
But it's like not coming across on screen. I don't know why. So if I looked a bit thrown off in the beginning there, that's why.
Dude, that's hilarious.
Let me try and.
Yeah, you said whoa. I was like, uh-oh. Not right before stream. What happened?
Okay, I think we're good. I think it's looking. I just want to make sure that it doesn't like.
There we go.
Yeah, my Discord is like freaking out to the left of me. So if it starts to show up on stream, guys, let me know. I'm just going to run with it. I don't care if it's freaking out over here as long as the rest of it's looking good. I don't care. For some reason it's not translating over. But sorry about that, guys. That totally threw me off in our intro. How are you all doing today? Welcome to Comics in the Cross, the greatest streamers you have never heard of. We are here with the first ever of a second part to an indie comic book club where we are going to be talking our thoughts on Volume 2 of Mouse. And we talked about the first part last week. We talked about the controversy surrounding it, talked about our thoughts on the first book, the content in it, if it was worthy of being cancelled, if it was worthy of being taken out of curriculum, what our thoughts on everything were. And yeah, we're doing the exact same thing kind of again this week, but because it's a 2-volume book for the whole story, we wanted to cover the whole thing. Because of the type of book it is, the historical significance to it, and the story, we wanted to walk through the whole thing, but there's no way that we were going to properly cover the 2 volumes in one show.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It was a lot of stuff to cover.
I feel like more happens in the first book, but a lot happens in the second book.
I feel like it was like the first book was like, yeah, we have to just get up to the point of Auschwitz.
Yeah.
And then from Auschwitz, it was like, okay, this is the main stuff, and it's insane some of the stuff that happens.
Yeah, man. It's like, you growing up hearing about the Holocaust, you always hear about Auschwitz. That was the main thing.
Yeah, that's always the big one you hear about, you know.
And I guess it's just because I guess that was what the bigger or the biggest camp. But Dachau, that they mentioned in the book, which was another one, was where a lot of like just crazy stuff went down.
Yeah, and we get a good kind of perspective on that as well, and because he goes to Auschwitz and then later on goes to Dachau, and like we see that camp that's inside Germany, and some of that perspective as well. So I'm really intrigued to get into this book, really intrigued to talk about it. First of all, I want to just a couple of little things I want to mention beforehand. Okay, it's like every time. See how like my mouse is moving?
I don't. Oh yeah, I see it.
Right. It's fine on screen. Like on my Discord, it looks fine, but like, see when that stuff disappears, we are literally like going, like frozen in the spot, like jerking like crazy. It's.
Dude, that's hilarious.
I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know.
Shout out to Infinity Bros. What's up, guys?
Hey, Infinity Bros, man, how are you guys doing? Good to see our good friends over at the Infinity Bros. If you're not following them, listening to their podcast, one of the best podcasts out there to talk about anything in geek culture that is not ours. You definitely want to go and check theirs out. I mean, it's a solid number 2 to ours, but you know, you do the best you could with the competition. It's there,
Yeah, shout out Infinity Bros.
But love the Infinity Bros. Go drop them a follow. You'll absolutely love these guys. They're absolutely awesome.
I gotta say, guys, this is probably one of my favorite shirts. It fits really nice. If you were looking to support Infinity Bros, you should buy one of their shirts because this is some high quality merch.
Yeah, the shirt's really good quality. Although, speaking of high quality merch, I do have to say I'm very excited because I've got some of our brand new merch actually arriving this week. I've ordered some stuff off of our brand new merch store.
Nice.
That's got our new Comics in the Cross logo on it. So I'm excited for that coming in. I've actually got 2 things coming in. I've got a new long sleeve t-shirt. I got the winter long sleeve t-shirt, and I got the new Comics in the Cross hoodie. So I never got a hoodie off of the last ones. I never got a hoodie with the last logo on it. So
getting the hoodie headed into summer.
and I got, hey, see with this room, you never know what the temperature is going to be. Like I have like no heating or cooling in this room.
Yeah.
So if we get like
a garage, so I get it.
So if we get like a one like cold night, it is going to be freezing in this office. You know, so you have to be prepared. But yeah, it's
I gotta get a shirt, man.
So that is up, although we do have some exciting merch news coming up. We can't talk about it right now, but we do have an exciting exclusive piece of merch that's going to be coming to the store that we are super hyped for. I can't believe we managed to pull this off somehow.
I don't know how we did it, but we're pulling some favors.
Yeah,
That's all I'm
but
gonna
keep
say.
an eye out for that announcement coming soon. But we actually have some other announcements today. So first of all, I want to do an announcement of a good friend of ours who pops into the chat like fairly frequently at this point. I can't remember when he first
He's
showed
a regular.
up. I can't remember when he first showed up. He first showed up when we had a special guest on and was supporting them, and he literally just doesn't stop showing up now. Mr. Tom Levine, who is a well-known like author out there, and is now taking his journey into the comic sphere with his own comic. He's done comics before. He's written other stuff like he's written for
spare
Spawn.
time with us.
He's written for like Spawn and stuff before, to Nitro's excitement. But he's writing his own new comic now called Beckett's Last Mixtape, which I've had the absolute honour of reading. I don't know if you had a chance to read it yet, Nitro.
I haven't read it yet.
I've had an absolute honour of reading it. The way I described it to him and the way I try and pitch it, and I mean it as the biggest compliment in the world to him, is like the opposite of 13 Reasons Why. You know that crap Netflix show?
Yeah.
Just me, D, coming in with the redeem of first. How are you doing,
D?
sweetheart? Good to see you, D. Welcome on in. But I mean it in the biggest compliment to him.
Yeah.
Because 13 Reasons Why is kind of crap. But it's like the first season of 13 Reasons Why, but it's almost like the reverse of that. Because the whole fixture on it is about a girl looking to commit suicide. And her story and journey in that. And I don't want to spoil too much about it because we're going to talk about it. He's actually coming on the show on April 3rd to talk a little bit about the comic, but it's actually up on Kickstarter right now and it is almost done. I actually have a link for it I'm going to post. So that is going to be up there for another 3 days. It is open. It just hit over 100 backers on it. I would highly recommend checking it out. Having read the whole first issue, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The art is stunning.
The art is
absolutely stunning. The story is really intriguing, and I am really hyped to see where they go in the future issues. So I would highly recommend this. I have put my money on it, and I backed it. I've put some money towards it. So go ahead, check that out. There's 3 days left to get in on that Kickstarter, and we would highly recommend it. Unfortunately, they couldn't get him in on the show before the Kickstarter was done, but we did tell him we'd do a shout out for it since we're getting him on the show anyway.
So get over the art, man. It's so nice.
Please go and check it out. It's absolutely worth reading, guys. And come back on April 3rd where you get a chance to hear us talk with him and delve a little bit more into that and into his new, foray into comics, which is very exciting. So yeah, we wanted to talk about that. We talked about the merch. The other big announcement for today is that we're finally starting to kind of get boots on the ground when it comes to planning our 12-hour fundraiser. Excuse me, dry throat there. We are doing, as we did it last year in April, we're doing it the same this year. Right now I think the working date we're going with is April 23rd. At the moment we're working towards that. That may change depending how certain things kind of look, but we're looking forward to April 23rd as the possible date for it. We're going to be doing another 12-hour stream, probably kind of same as last time, 10 to 10, because that seemed to work.
Yeah. Miss Nitro and Lady J will be showing up.
Yeah, so
hopefully.
The plans at the minute, at least the working plans, are that we're kind of big Sea of Thieves streamers. We love playing Sea of Thieves, we love streaming Sea of Thieves. Finally got our own Sea of Thieves stream going. But for the 12-hour stream, we are actually looking for our lovely wives to take over the helm and have Jay and Mrs. Nitro along with 2 other crew members who we're still working out to set sail as part of Sea of Thieves and see how they do in terms of going to set sail. On the other flip side of it, if any of you catch the Monday night streams, my lovely wife streams horror and thriller games. And one of her kind of favourite games at the moment is playing Phasmophobia. Nitro and I have never played Phasmophobia. For the 12-hour stream, we are going to be playing Phasmophobia.
I'm not a huge fan of horror games, by the way.
Neither am I. If you want to hear like 2 grown men screaming like little girls, then this is a stream for you. We're going to be playing it on a harder difficulty because we're wanting to go full horror for it. If you really want to hear a grown man screaming like a little girl, then Caleb is going to be playing with us from Mountain Nerds. We literally have clips of him freaking out from playing it with Jay. on our clip, so he's going to be joining us, along with you big baby, dang right hobo, with Phasmophobia. I'm like, we were going to scream so much. And I believe we're going to try and get Locksteady to join us as the fourth, and the four of us who are usually our team for like going on Sea of Thieves are going to be jumping into Phasmophobia and trying to catch ghosts or ascertain what ghosts we're dealing with or whatever.
What's
the
the
heck
premise behind that game?
Basically, you have to go into a haunted place and use different tools and different things to try and work out what type of ghost you're dealing with.
Oh, great.
I think that's the premise. Like, it's not like a Ghostbuster thing where we have to go in and like catch it or something. It's like we're just trying to ascertain, I believe, what type of ghost it is. So, as you can tell, we really don't have much of a clue about this game, but yeah, we're going to jump into this and play it, along with Caleb and Locksteady if you guys are up for it. And we're going to try and do it, and we're going to try and not just survive but thrive. We're going to try and learn what the ghosts are. We're going to try and earn money. We're going to try and do well and succeed. Phasmo's awesome.
I read that as Phasmo's awesome. You need to get a diaper. It makes Phasmo much more fun for us viewers.
We don't have Dexper set up. We do have Streamloots, which we use for Sea of Thieves, and I can create a collection based around Phasmophobia, which is a possibility of me doing. I don't know if I'm going to do it since it's our first foray into it, and it's going to be scary enough for us. We're going to be doing it. But for our 12-hour stream, as we did for last year, kind of different from last year, this is going to be a fundraising stream as well. Last year we did fundraising to try and raise money to for charity to give towards the Autism Community in Action. You can see my poster up behind me, right there.
It's right there.
And it's got our that we got as a thank you from them. They sent us posters with a thank you on it, and stuff, which was really nice of them. But our amazing community managed to raise $2,000 last year. This year it's a bit more of a closer to home. If I can put the link in chat. And we are actually going to be raising money it's actually for myself and for Jay, or at least for our son. For anyone who doesn't know, our eldest son, Matt, is his autism. He's 5-year-old. He's autistic. He's in school at the moment, but we're actually looking to raise money to get him a special trained service dog. These are service dogs, kind of along the lines of like you see service dogs trained to help with the blind and different things like that as guide dogs and things. And there's actually special training that these dogs can go through from puppies. It takes time to train them and to actually assist with autism, where they can be emotional support dogs. They can help if he's having a freak out, if he's getting overwhelmed with emotions or stuff's getting to him. They're trained in different techniques to help calm him, to help him get through social situations and social anxieties and all these other things that he's going to struggle with on a day-to-day basis. We're wanting to do that as an everyday thing for him, to be able to help as he starts to delve further into going to school and going to out into the real world. So like we can go to a store, or we can go grocery shopping, or we can go to a park, and we don't have to be as worried or fearful about it. So you'll see on the GoFundMe, an amazing bunch of people have already like donated money to it since we set it up a little while ago, which amazing massive shout out to them, including an anonymous donator who decided to like give us $1,000 just off the bat, and I'm like, no idea who they were, but massive shout out and thank you to them. As you can see, the main goal, if you click on it, is $27,000, and that's for the specialised training they go through. These dogs are, once they get the deposit from us, they go and they get the dog and they start training the dog, and it takes a year of training to get into the right place. This is across the country, so they'll bring them over here to meet our son, make sure the dog matches and he gets on well with them and all this different stuff. And it's a lot of money for the training that they go through. We at the moment are looking to try and get about $9,000 to $10,000 for a deposit to put down on it, and that's the goal of the stream. Like, we're going to go as long as we can to get as much money as we can towards it. By no means do I want to put pressure on anyone and say like, you guys need to fund this for me or anything like that, but we're doing this fundraiser as a chance to ask the community for help. Because this is a big financial drain. We do not have the finances off the bat. Like, we literally live paycheck to paycheck as it is. So this is a massive blessing to my son, and we're asking the Comic Clan to help in any way you guys can. And however much we raise on that day from the 12-hour stream, we are greatly appreciative of. But like I said, by no means are we wanting to pressurize anyone to feel like you guys have to give, you guys have to be the ones to do it, but we're asking if you can and are able to, we would love support, and we thank you so much for any support that you all give. But you can click on that link and you can read the GoFundMe, you can read all the information on there, a little bit about our son, kind of get to know him a little bit, and there's a donation link if you choose to do so. But that link's there because we're going to be raising money obviously out with the donations, and there's a lot more to go, and it's just a good place to kind of consolidate everything into one. But yeah, on the 12-hour stream, that's where the donations are going to be going to the GoFundMe to push towards this. So that's what the fundraiser is for this year. The name of the company, let me throw it up on screen for those watching, is Loyalty Service Dogs, awesome dogs for awesome people. So that's the company. Jay has done a lot of research into this and a lot of research into the company to make sure everything's a-okay with them, to make sure this isn't just some random company, some scam artist, some other thing, because like they happen to be across the other side of the country and all this sort of stuff. She's looked into all of this, so they seem to be, as far as we can tell, above board. Everything looks great with them, a lot of great reports, a lot of great success stories, so we're hoping to become one of those success stories.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, so we're in the middle of planning for that sort of stuff. So we've got those 2 game streams taking place during it. We also we're going to be doing a review. We're getting Nitro, the man who does not watch sci-fi stuff, to delve into one of my favourite sci-fi shows. Hopefully it'll go better than the last sci-fi show I tried to get him into. The Firefly one did not go well. But he's going to be watching season 1 of Doctor Who. One of my favourite sci-fi shows of all time. I absolutely adore Doctor Who, and he's going to be watching season 1, and we're going to be talking about it as a man who's never watched the show before, sitting down with a guy who's a fan, who's watched it, who's lived it pretty much.
Yeah.
And grown up with this. So it'll be an interesting kind of juxtaposition on that, and to see what Nitro thinks coming in completely fresh. So yeah, we're going to be doing that, and then also as well we will be doing a whole bunch of incentives and giveaways and different stuff like that. Some of the giveaways we're going to be doing some comic giveaways like we did last time, some Funko Pops we're planning to do as giveaways as well. I think one of the giveaways that we're planning to do, or one of the incentives we're planning to do, is to try and recreate the opening credit Peacemaker dance that a lot of people on TikTok try to copy. So if you want to see us acting like idiots trying to recreate that, we're going to try that. Jay and I are going to try and recreate a lot of the no, not the first Doctor ads, talking the Ninth Doctor, the season 1 of the reboot. We're not going all the way back to like William Hartnell. We're not going back to the 60s, just to 2005. Oh, thank you, Dee. Thank you, I appreciate it. Saying your son is adorable, deserves the very best puppy. And Hobo, yes, the season 1 from the reboot is like, okay, for anyone who's trying to be smart here with are you going back to the first Doctor? Okay, look, it's already 13 seasons deep since they rebooted it in 2005. I'm going to start them easy with the current Doctors. I'm not going to make him go back and watch the black and white like William Hartnell origin slick story stuff.
Yes, please.
We don't need to delve into that. If he wants to delve into classic Doctors later, by all means, but we're not starting him on that. We're going to start him easy with the modern Doctors.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah, like Eccleston's a good introduction. We'll start there and see where it goes.
I'm a fan of his.
You know, but yeah, so we're going to be doing that for it. We're going to be doing Jay and I are going to be trying to do some couple challenges, I think, every so much that we kind of get.
We'll be giving away some art. I'll have a couple commissions.
Yeah, Nitro's got a couple of commissions. One of them, one of the pieces he's giving away, you've seen some of it done. If you've been watching his Art of the Hero, he was working on a TMNT piece. He's going to be doing that and giving that away. The finished product of that is going to be one of the giveaways, along with another giveaway. There's going to be like special commissions like we did last year. People want a chance to get a commission of their choice, which ended up in quite a few awesome like crossover creations.
Yeah, dude, it was a lot of fun. We spent the next like 3 months doing those commissions. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it seemed to be like all crossover stuff, because we had like what was it, Destiny 2 and Avatar. We had like what was it, Iron Man and Mass Effect. Could not think of the name of it there. We had Link and Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
So like, I had like Legend of Zelda Star Wars crossover. So we had a lot of great commission pieces, like
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
which I'm gonna put the link in chat. Go and check them out on our YouTube. All of those are stored on our YouTube, along with all of our previous shows and everything. If you've not had a chance to check some of those commission pieces, 100% check them, because Nitro is awesome. The artwork's just stunning, and it's worth being checked out. So if you know how amazing this man's artwork is, then you want to be in with a chance to win a special commission from him. You might be in with a chance even just to win like the TMNT piece and the other piece that he's doing that's just to win. Like, trust me, these are awesome prizes to be getting. Shout out to chat, Hobo and Ads saying okay, yep, just asking. Hey Archie Bible Nerd, how are you doing? Since Archie Bible Nerd is in, let me do a little shout out for him, because Archie Bible Nerd, if you guys didn't know, he pops into our chat every so often. He is actually doing his own art streams now. I never get used to that.
What happened?
When I do a shout out and there's not a clip, it just plays like music over the top of it, and I'm never prepared for it. I always forget. It's like I hear music playing. What the heck just happened? Why am I? So yeah, massive shout out to Arch the Bible Nerd, who is doing his own art stream, trying to become a Twitch affiliate at the moment. So if you like great art and great Christian streamers, go ahead and drop him a follow, give him some love. It's definitely worth checking out. So yeah, so we've got a lot of stuff planned. A lot of stuff still obviously getting worked out for the 12-hour stream. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. I'm hyped about doing it. The last 12-hour stream was awesome.
Dude, it was nuts, dude. It was a lot of fun, and it went by super
We
fast.
are not doing as much stuff as we did last time.
Because it was like something every hour for 2 hours.
Yeah, like we tried to change it up frequently. I called in a lot of like favors of people to come and help out with us. Asked a lot of friends of ours to come and play games with us. Set up a lot of prizes, a lot of giveaways, a lot of different stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, like I think it almost killed me trying to set all that stuff
for the next
up.
couple of weeks, you were wiped. Yeah.
I was out for weeks after that. If you literally watch our shows like after the 12-hour stream, like from like end of April and at the start of May from last year, like I was not with it at all. Like I was so drained. Like I've been working on this stuff non-stop, and like I can't do that every year.
Yeah.
I can't. So we're changing it up. We're trying to do less for longer rather than more. If you guys want to see specific stuff, by all means, hit us up on social media, hit us up on Discord, and give us your ideas. If you want to get involved somehow, by all means, let us know, and we'll try our best to try and get as many people involved as we can that want to be involved in it. But yeah, it's beyond Sea of Thieves, Phasmo, and the Doctor Who talk. There's not going to be a lot more we're probably going to be doing stream-wise.
Yeah.
Because like 12-hour streams even split up. If you take about 2 hours for the talk, because usually the way that we ramble, we usually give about 2 hours to that. Take that out, you've got like 10 hours, so we could do 3-4 hours Sea of Thieves, 3-4 hours Phasmo easy. Maybe a couple of other things, but like not a lot. So yeah, so it's not going to be a vast amount of extra stuff on top of that, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what we did last time. So I know we watched that movie. I forgot what the movie was.
Oh, we watched Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest.
We played
golf with your friends.
Played golf with your friends. We played a little bit of Among Us. We did a quiz. We did some Apex Legends. We did a superhero square go.
Oh, did we? We did during the. Oh, that's right. I totally remember that. We did a square go during the 12-hour stream. The square goes.
Never
for
again.
Those of you who don't know. For those of you who don't
Never
know,
again am I doing those two things together.
I feel like I need to preface the square goes here. So, square goes. It's basically 5 matches on a card. Basically, is how we've been doing it.
Yeah, we set it up like it's an MMA fight, or like however many, like 5 to 6 fights that are all like 1v1. Who would win?
Yeah, and you have a main event, you have a co-main event, and you have like 3 or 4 other matches. Now, for each of those matches, both Cross and I have to do a ton of research for every character to figure out exactly what the limits of their power are, what type of situations they've been in, to see how they match with this just fictitious matchup. Because normally it's from a different universe or somebody they've never met before.
You have no idea the amount of research we put into these. That's why there's only been 2.
Yeah, it's a
because like
ton of art.
we literally like I could literally spend hours like the week before it, I literally spend maybe 4 hours while I was working because I used to work in the evening, so I would literally spend
Yeah,
about 3 to 4 hours just like in my free time in the evening when I didn't get that many calls, like researching,
yeah,
looking up, and that was for a fight.
yeah.
And I was trying
I
to do
think
like
this was like,
one per night to prep
yeah,
stuff for it and get stuff in place for it, and I'm like doing that while planning a 12-hour stream might be one of the stupidest things I've ever done in my life. Maybe one of the reasons that almost killed me last time. We do have a third square goal ready to go in terms of match card.
I just got to do some art for it.
Because ads we did have a redemption and we still do in the
Yeah.
channel points, but I had to turn it off because ads like cashed in like he's been watching us since for like 2 years since we started, and
Yeah, like the
literally
whole Square
cashed in
Go.
most of his points
Yeah,
to
the whole
make an
next Square
entire
Go
card.
is sponsored by ads. The whole next Square Go
Like
is
all the
sponsored.
fights are put
We should
together
do
by
like a little
him.
logo that says sponsored by ads.
Yeah, we
That's pretty
absolutely
cool.
do. Like, because Ad literally like put together this whole square goal, and it's like, and even though he's put it together, like we don't have to make the matches. Like Nitro and I still have to research them
Yeah,
because we want to put across the best fights possible. It says pick dodge as well as depending on what keys you could choose. She has loads of research. Yeah, exactly. As like that's it. There's a
oh
lot.
great.
Like you pick dodge from Lock and Key, and if you've ever read Lock and Key, her main power comes from the keys that she finds. And if you've ever read Lock and Key or even watched the show, you'll know there's a lot of freaking keys that do a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. So like we're probably going to limit the amount of keys that she's got just so we don't
Yeah,
have to
we have to
research
set like
everything.
we have to set that up front. Like this is the keys that she has access to.
Yeah, because like otherwise, like no, like the amount of research we put into the Square Go is insane. Because we want to give you guys the best thing possible. Like, because
Yeah.
we're geeks as well. We love a good like who would win, like
Well,
argument.
And then ads picked Cross and Nitro as the main
Yeah,
event.
yeah. The main event for the next one is going to be me versus Nitro, and
So
you
we
know,
obviously can't moderate that. We'd be a little bit biased, so we got to figure out that.
yeah, it's going to be a little bit biased, and you know, it's like
Yeah,
Nitro's
yeah.
doing artwork for it and stuff. Because we all know I'd win that one anyway, but you know, it's like we have to at least
Sure,
make it look
right,
like a good
sure.
fight, you know.
Yeah,
We
got
have to
it.
at least
Got it.
pretend it's going to be a good fight, and you know, it's not going to be totally one-sided and completely me that would win it. But you know,
Yeah. So what was our topic for today?
yeah. See, he's changing the subject because he knows I'm right. But yeah, so there is going to be a square goal coming up. But with the 12-hour stream happening, I am not going to lie. I think right now we've marked it in for probably after that.
Mhm.
And Ads has been waiting a long time for us to put this together.
Yeah.
But I do promise there is a square goal coming. There is a third square goal. It is in the works. I have the match card, and we'll start doing the research for it. But yeah, I think that was most of our major announcements for today. I think that was most of our conversation topics that we
Yeah, man.
kind of had to get across. So yeah, obviously go check out the fundraiser page for information on that, for what we're doing the fundraising for. Go and check out Tom Levine's Kickstarter for Beckett's Last Mixtape if you want a really cool comic to get into. I guarantee you're going to enjoy it. It's definitely worth checking out. Definitely a series worth getting into. You know, if you know us, like we generally don't shout out a Kickstarter or Indiegogo or anything like that for a creator on here unless we're like pretty confident about it.
Yeah. I just can't get the art, man. It's so nice.
You know, we've had stuff like that we've backed and they've ended up being absolutely horrible. Like, do you remember that one that we
gosh.
backed and it's like the artwork ended up like we were kind of hoping it wasn't the finished art and it ended up that was the finished art, and
It was really bad, man.
the story was really put back
And we
together.
put a lot of money towards it.
Oh,
Both
yeah,
Cross
we
and
put-
I. We
yeah,
put like
yeah.
$50.
Well, yeah, because
like,
we
it
got
was
like
a
a
lot.
big like collected edition of the whole thing and all
we got
this, and I'm like,
artifacts, like everything.
the story sounded really cool. I thought it was a really worth thing to invest in, and then I got like, and then like they started sending out the digital issues for it like as they were ready, and I got the first digital issue, and I went, oh no.
It's like, and I hate the trash. That's why we're not giving the name out, so we're not going to trash them on stream. But
No.
it's like the band that comes out with the CD, and they have that one song on the CD. It's just like, that's a banger. It's awesome. But then the rest of the CD, you're like, well,
Yeah, like like you hear the single drop and you think that's amazing. Oh, I need to get this
Yeah.
album. I need to get this album.
Yeah.
This looks absolutely cool. And then you get the album, and I'm like, I wish I just bought the single. I
Yeah.
wish I just bought that song. You know, I wish I just went to iTunes and just like that one. I didn't need it all.
Yeah. So we're not gonna name names or anything like that, but
No, absolutely not.
like Ross said, if we promote something, it's because we really enjoy it.
Yeah, if we promote something, generally I've had the chance to like check it out, and generally we've had a chance to
Yeah.
read it. Generally we've had a chance to like. Also, generally we know the people. We've gotten to know them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the stuff we shouted out on here before, whether it's been stuff from Lewis Southard or Dave Pepos, or whether it's been the guys from Mercyway and Brainy Pixel or Dominion and Terminus Media, or you know, it's like or Tom Levine, a guy that we've gotten to know awesomely over the last few months. Like these are people we know who they are, we know their character, we know what they're doing with their story, but we've also had a chance to invest in their stories, and
Yeah.
we believe in it. Like, this is stunning artwork, this is great storytelling, this is stuff that we want to see from comics. Like, because like if you go to like these pages, there's 1,000,000,001 like comics on these pages, and not all comics are made equally. Let's put it that way.
No.
Like some
No,
of
they're
these
not.
are not worth your time.
No.
But the ones that we try to shout, we try to make sure it's something that our community would love and enjoy. And I think, speaking of ads as well, I think ads can attest to it. I think this man has pretty much bought everything we've ever recommended,
Yeah.
comic
Yeah.
book wise, so he could probably attest to most of
OG,
it.
man. He really is an OG though. He's been here since the beginning.
Ads is like, is that, I was going to check it with you and see if it's okay. Like the next payout we get from Twitch, when we actually get a bit of money, I want to put some of it towards sending ads like an item from our merch shop, like a T-shirt or a hoodie or something.
Yeah, that's
At the very least, to give him something, because like ads, you absolutely deserve it, dude.
yeah, man.
Yeah, man, and not long till OZ issue 2 drops. I'm so hyped. I went all in on OZ issue 2. I bought all the variants and everything like that. I'm hyped for this coming in, man. These variants are freaking amazing. I'm all hyped for the OZ.
Dude, speaking of ads, so when I get the characters drawn for our Square Go, I'm gonna try to make a poster for it. And ads, if I can get that together and it looks decent, I'll send you a copy of it, man.
Yeah, there you go. Put it together, because it's his card.
Yeah.
It's his fight card, man. But yeah, so I think that's our major announcements for today. But I think it's time to change gears a little bit and
Do it.
jump into what most people are here for, which is to hear part 2 of the story of Mouse. You know, we kicked it off last week talking about the controversy around this book, the reason it started all of this.
Mhm.
If anyone missed our show last week, of course you can get it on YouTube, where you can watch your videos, or pick it up anywhere that you get your podcast from. Just search Comics on the Cross, you'll find us. The controversy around it, again, for anyone who doesn't know, is school in Tennessee, basically. The board decided to vote about Mouse being part of the curriculum for the 8th grade.
Yes.
The 13-year-olds, the 13, 14, 8th grade. I never know grades, because like we didn't do the grade system in Scotland. We have something completely different. So like I always have to like count to get grades right. But for around like 13, 14-year-olds curriculum, and they decided to take it out, believing that Mouse had too much nudity, too much violence, and too much bad language to be part of the curriculum, and it sparked a whole conversation across the country, across the whole of the United States, talking about it and talking about if this is something that should be taken out of curriculums, if this is us being censored on the sort of stuff that we're being involved in, because this isn't just like a book with adult themes. This is a book that's talking about a massive historical event that had a massive impact, not just upon the US but the world.
Yeah.
And that's what started us wanting to look into it. Again, massive shout out to our friends over at Richmond Comics, our local comic book store, for getting us hooked up with these volumes, because this book has been sold out everywhere. I think Chunks, the one that's been in chat the last week, kind of talking with us and saying he ordered it and he has no idea when it's coming in. He ordered it off at Amazon. It's like it's back ordered. And like if one day it's just going to show up in his house, he's going to be like, who the heck ordered this? I don't remember buying this.
It's funny because so I was obviously Joy knew that I was reading this. Joy, Miss Nitro, and she at the end of me finishing volume 2, she's like, so if our kid was in middle school, would you want him reading this? And after the first volume, I was like, yeah, I would be 100% fine with it. But after this one, I'm like, I don't know. 'Cause this, I think the second volume is where a lot of the, I think where a lot of the concern might have come in from parents. I guess I don't know.
This volume was a lot of a tougher read.
I, I, I don't want to say I would not be okay with them reading it if they were 13 or 12, but in my opinion, I think a 12-year-old or whatever, or a 13-year-old, this is a lot to process, in my opinion.
It's a
I
lot
don't
of
know.
stuff. I think for me, just off the bat, I think I'm kind of feel the same as I did, like I said last week.
Mhm.
I think I'm okay them reading it as long as there's a space for a conversation, and I would look to have a
Yeah,
conversation with them about it
yeah,
and talk to them about it. I don't think it's a good thing for them to get it on its own,
yeah,
especially this volume,
yeah. Second volume was
because
intense.
that's the interesting thing. This volume has a lot more hard hitting stuff in it, but
Mhm.
like you said, like it's more stuff happens in the first volume. The first volume is the whole war almost.
It's a ton of narrative in the first volume. This one is not a
This is
lot.
all
Not a
the
lot happens.
the
Like
first
point
volume's
A to
all
point
lead
B.
up to this. The whole volume, like the first volume, ends with him getting to Auschwitz. But the thing is, the first volume ends in 1944. World War II lasted from 39 to 45.
Yeah,
Almost the entire war and what took place to Vladek Spiegelman during the war happens in Volume 1. This is like the last year of the war gets a volume about the same thickness as the
and it's
first
maybe
one.
20 pages less, maybe, but it's about the same size.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe a chapter less because it's like five because there's 5 chapters as opposed to 6, but like the chapters, some of them are also longer
Yeah.
with some of the stuff in them, and it's like it's literally everything that happens at Auschwitz.
One of the cool things that I like about this is just how this thing like was super, and I hate to keep using this word, but this is like a super meta book, like because it keeps alluding to itself being written on the actual page that it's illustrated
The
and written
stories
on.
are the stories are
It's
awesome, like
so
the
cool.
actual family, like because they talk about it and he has
Yeah.
actual conversations, and then there's even the really interesting part of like even like the second chapter, and it kicks off. It kicks off him talking about his father's death,
Hmm.
like because like the first
Yeah,
volume came out,
he's
and
had
then
his,
he's working on the second volume, and as he's working on the second volume, his father legitimately passes away.
yeah.
So at the start of the second chapter is like him processing this and working through a lot of the stuff he went through with his father,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
his relationship with his father, and like
Yeah.
like kind of like we talked about last time. It's very real.
Yeah.
It's
And again,
very human
he doesn't.
experience and emotion. Like his father is not the best man in the world.
No, he
It's
does
very
not whitewash
easy.
his dad.
It'd be very easy to paint a Holocaust survivor
Hmm.
as this phenomenal man
Yeah.
who like came through this stuff and he's hard strong, and even all the stuff that's going on with him, oh, it was probably the war that did that to him.
Hmm.
And like he's very upfront, like, no, my dad was a bit of a jackass, and he was a bit of a
Yeah.
jackass before the war as well. The war didn't do this.
And he was a racist.
Yeah, he was a racist, like towards black people. We find out
Yeah.
like in like chapter 4,
And it's funny
and
because
like
like
and his fiance calls him out on it. He's like,
yeah, yeah,
how
art's
can
art's
you of
like
all people be racist to a group of people
I
after
know.
what you went through?
I know. And he goes, it's not the same. You wouldn't understand.
But like it started, like Jay and I had a really great conversation off of it and talking about it of like how like his experience, because his experience came from the fact of like him dealing with black people, was living in New York and him leaving valuables about, and it was black people that would steal them,
Hmm.
and he dropped that into like, if what would you do if you come to a brand new place with a group of people that you've never experienced before, living in Poland, living in Europe, you never really came across a black community,
Hmm.
but every black person he came across in New York was someone who took something from him,
Hmm.
and then you tar that brush. I'm like, you can almost see the little steps of like why his thought process became like that, and you can almost see the little steps of like how the thought process would go from like that to what happened with Hitler.
Hmm.
Like those experiences and those things being churned up inside him, like I mean, that's how the Second World War came about. That's how what
Yeah.
Hitler's like hatred towards the Jews came from. It wasn't like this massive hatred at all times. Like it started with little steps
Hmm. Yeah, as
to
laid
get
out in the first book. Yeah.
to get to where it was, and it was like how. But it was also like really awesome to kind of read that and realize how easy it is to fall into that.
Hmm.
And
I think
like, it's
that's
if
why
you
it's so
don't check
important.
it, if you don't like reassess yourself and reassess, like, because that would be, you can make that judgments about anybody. You can pick any
Hmm.
group of people and make those judgments. And if all you've ever done, like, if you know, I mean, even like me, like I can do it white on white. Like, you know, as a Scotsman coming to America, if every American I met was a specific way, I've got no evidence to the contrary that Americans can be different. Like, if every
Hmm.
American was like the stereotype we got on TV in Scotland, you know,
Yeah.
the big, brash, loud, rude, don't give a damn about anyone else or anything
Yeah.
else that isn't them.
Yeah.
If that's the only Americans I ever met, like, yeah. After a while, after you've met three, four, five of them and they're all like that,
Hmm.
it's very hard to make an argument that they're not.
Hmm.
If that's your only experience of it. And it's like, it's, I guess in my head, it was a really interesting way of me kind of like processing and thinking of how you can easily fall into that mindset.
Yeah, I feel like even like I got obviously I've never lived anywhere but America, but I feel like in America specifically, it's really easy to get like locked into an ideology, especially with the media and everything like that. Like you feel like you at times you're arguing yourself into that ideology, and that's a very dangerous thing to not look at stuff open-mindedly. You know what I'm saying? Even if you have
Yeah.
a strong stance with something, being able to see somebody else's point of view or being able to just listen, I think is obviously super important.
I think it's a very important thing to. I think something that, like, the people, human beings, especially in this day and age, and apparently, you know, in our past accounts as we've seen throughout this book for multiple reasons, it's very hard for people to stop and admit that they may be wrong.
Hmm.
Like, whether it's your perspective on someone, whether it's something that you've went through, whether it's something that's occurred to you, whether it's a group of people that you've had an issue with,
Yeah.
to come out of your own, I've been hurt, this happened to me, screw all of you, this is the right way to think because this is my experience.
Hmm.
Which, you know, like, which, shoot me down if I'm completely out the wrong, but having lived in America, I feel like it's a big mentality over here, especially, is the what about me mentality.
Hmm.
You know, it's like that you know, it's like this such and such is going on and all this situations happen, it's like, oh yeah, that's fine, but what about me?
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's a mentality that needs to be broken because we have to come out of our own selves. And like in his experience, if every black person I ever met had stolen something from me, it'd be very easy for me to come into a mentality of all black people are like thieves and muggers and, you know, gangbangers and whatever other like stereotypes that still exist to this day in a lot of America.
Hmm.
And actually think and come to like every new like black person I meet as this is a new experience.
Hmm.
Who are you? Or every
Hmm.
Jew I meet, or every Asian I meet, or every, you know, it's like it'd be very
Yeah.
easy to get in the mentality of my experiences conform this rather than coming out of it and saying maybe that's not the whole,
Yeah.
maybe that's not the whole mentality. And I think that's a big message that I get coming out of this. At least that's the way it got my brain working and thinking was we do need to be on guard. Like, there are people out there who don't want us to talk about the Holocaust. There are
Yeah.
people out there who don't want to acknowledge that this is a part of history. And it's this thing of like, we don't want to acknowledge it because it's almost this weird thing of like, we don't want to be reminded of the sourness of the past because, and we have this almost weird thing of like, we want to be aware of change in this country, but, you know, in this world as a whole. But we also don't let go of the past in a weird way. It's this really weird like juxtaposition of like where it doesn't actually make sense.
Hmm.
We don't want to remember the bad stuff, but God forbid someone's bad stuff comes up, we will never let them forget it.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about the Holocaust, but James Gunn 14 years ago made a single joke that was made a bunch of jokes that were out of character and like that he apologised for.
Yeah.
But we're never going
That's
to let him forget that there was a bad thing. It's like it's this weird thing of like we need to be able to admit that bad stuff happened
yeah. I think in
and
general.
grow from it and allow ourselves to like this did happen, but we've learned like this country has a racist past. It has, you know, black people were slaves and the slave trade
Yeah.
happened and all that stuff. Is it perfect now? No.
Yeah.
But we also have to admit that from where we came from, we have progressed.
Hmm.
and it is progressing, and we are changing, and different stuff is starting to happen, and
I feel like there's a big thing in this country specifically. There's just like a lack of empathy. There's a lack of empathy for other people's experiences,
hmm
and not just the African American experience, but just in I think it
oh
just in
yeah, from
general.
anyone, yeah, I would agree.
But like, and there's a lack of grace. Those two things, I think, if we were able to adopt more of that, to some extent, I think it would go a long way. Honestly,
hmm
I know that's a super generalized statement, but
No,
I feel
I
like
would
that's
agree.
like this nation is like devoid of that right now, and it shows.
Yeah, like I would absolutely agree that there's this weird thing of like we don't that my life and what I've been through is more relevant than yours, and if yours is different from me, well, you're just wrong.
Mm,
If your experiences are different from me, like, I had a hard upbringing, all this stuff happened to me, all this stuff went through. Well, I grew up in the same place as you, and I had an amazing life. So you just didn't have, you
so
must have
your
done, you
experiences
must
are
have done
valid.
something wrong because like my life
Yeah,
was great,
yeah,
and it's like, no, both experiences are valid.
yeah. Your positive experience does not invalidate my negative one, or vice versa.
Exactly. This country is very much like I kind of mentioned, like, and I've noticed it here in the States, and chances are, like, they say everything's bigger in America. It's like, I think like the amplification of this is there, and I don't think it's just an American thing. I think it's a Western
Mm,
thing, especially. I don't know about a global thing, but especially in the West as a whole, it's very much a case of it's about me, and we get so inward focused, we get so inward driven, and we get so like my life. I need to do this. I need to live this way. I need to get this stuff sorted. I need
mm,
that. It's really hard to stop and feel empathetic to someone else.
yeah.
To stop and understand someone else's life and what other people have gone through. That's why stuff like this is important.
Mm,
Because at the same time, like, your experiences are just as valid as my experiences. But I would also say, to a certain extent, like, my knowledge and understanding of Auschwitz and World War Two and scenarios like that don't outweigh somebody who lived through it. To a certain extent, which is why it's important to keep, delving into this stuff. Why it's important
mm,
to read stories like Mouse and to read about the story of Vlad and what happened to him, because what did happen here?
mm.
Because we can argue back and forth whether this is relevant or not relevant, but what was the actual experience in this book? What was the actual
Like,
experience of this life?
and then talking about empathy, like there's multiple points in this, especially in the volume two, where Vladik is a hard man, like with his son, and it's just the way that he communicates with his son, and it's part of it's his personality. Obviously, part of it is what he went through, and part of it is his station in life later on in life. But there's a
hmm
couple points later on when Art is just listening to his dad and being genuinely interested in what his dad has to say, that you can tell like his dad appreciates that,
Yeah,
and just by the way he interacts with Art. And I think that's honestly just what a lot of people just want people to listen. Like,
yeah.
I just need somebody to listen to me. That's it. Like, and even that, just that act of
Just
listening to someone is an empathetic gesture. Like
just to
you're
feel
opening.
validation,
Yes.
a validation of I hear you, I hear your experiences, and that's a
That's
valid
powerful.
experience. That's a valid thing that you have gone through,
Hmm.
and not just shoving it off like, oh, you're just overreacting and pushing it to the side. No, you went through an experience. You had an emotional reaction to it. You've gone through these emotions, and the emotions you're feeling towards it are valid.
Yeah.
Your experiences are valid. Kind of like what D saying in chat there. Is like, I feel like a lot of people have forgotten that other people are also people. Their own lives are independent and your perspectives and experiences involving them. We want to be validated as people. That although your experiences are different from my experiences, that your experiences are just as valid as my experiences.
Hmm.
They might be different. I might never have experienced them. I might never have gone through the same stuff you've gone through. But your experience of a situation is just as valid.
Hmm.
You know, whether that's something simple as having grown up, whether that's something, you know, something simple as like, do you want to know how insane we get with this? with other people's experiences. It's, look at us, like, we're in the comic book community. Massive community. Over the last, 5 years, or however long it's been, look at the war that has occurred between those that love the movies from the DCEU, like Batman v Superman, Justice League, all that sort of stuff, and those that really cannot stand them.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't just well, if you like it, awesome.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, okay, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah.
It became utter war, venomous hatred and attacks on each other.
Yeah. What?
And that's over superhero movies.
Yeah.
That's not even talking about the way that we get towards people of other political parties, or other people of different religions, or different wants and desires. We're not even going to get into the whole the different perspectives on abortion and gun violence and all these other things that separate us.
Yeah.
In mentioning the gun violence reminds me of an article I read from written by Rhett, the guy from Rhett and Link, the YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
And he says the biggest issue isn't the fact that we have these differing opinions. The biggest issue is the fact that we can't sit and talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have a conversation that it still is valid.
Yeah.
That my perspective, even though it's different from yours, we can't sit and have a conversation about those differing perspectives. And I think that's a big thing, regardless of what the other people are going through, regardless of, what you feel about it. If we can't have that differing perspective, if we can't have that differing conversation, that's an issue. That's a problem.
He says in chat, this topic speaks to me on a personal level, to be honest. Lately feeling a lot like I'm constantly having to explain and justify why I choose things differently or am the way that I am for other people's benefit, without being able to just exist and be accepted as a unique person, without my differences and offending people that don't have the same experience as I do. That's wrong.
Yeah. And that's a very valid thing to use. I think the truth is a lot of people don't talk about it, but I think more people probably feel like that than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, think of the wars that have happened in this country just in the last few years. We talk about that over the superhero movie, but over the different stuff, let's talk the political parties, you know what I mean? It's whether you're a Trump supporter or a Trump hater, whether you're backing Biden or not, whether you're somewhere in between. And I'm not going to get into political stances or anything like that. Please don't start killing each other in the chat. We're not getting into that. It's I will time you out if we do. That's not what it's about. That's not my point.
Yeah.
My point is that both sides can't have a conversation.
Yeah.
To make the country work, we have to find a middle ground between these two opposites, these two extremes from each other. It's to make the country work, it's we need to find a middle ground to make it work. And it's no, we'd rather just try and yell and shout and kill each other, because that means we either change stuff every 4 years back and forth between the two, or we just never change anything because we're stuck in a stalemate.
Yeah, it's the de facto default is just conflict. It's polarization,
Yeah. D again saying, learning that it's okay to be myself and not responsible for other people's assumptions about me shouldn't be a massive life-changing and freeing event as an adult, but I also don't think I'm alone in this. No, you're absolutely not. You're absolutely not. And it's I think that's where Mouse really finds an amazing footing. Because after I finished reading each chapter, I wasn't done. I found myself thinking and processing and thinking about situations and being challenged by stuff, and even talking about that, this man lived through World War II. This man lived through going to concentration camps in Auschwitz and be taken back to Germany. And when he gets freed 3 times, and he keeps getting rounded back up by different German groups and all this. And this man who's gone through this much hatred against his own people is still racist towards another group. That alone gets a conversation going. And I talk about situations, and I talk about, well, how did we get in a situation like that?
Yeah.
He's went through that. Surely he should be the least racist person you're ever going to meet. But it's not that simple. People are not that simple. But people still deserve to be loved and be validated.
Yep.
I've seen people online rip each other apart over the Batman because Robert Pattinson was in Twilight. They don't like the movie, so they go anyone who liked it So they go at anyone who liked it. And it's like really, like, yeah. And that's it though. It's like you're allowed your opinion,
Hmm?
and your opinion is a valid opinion. I don't have to agree with it. Whatever that perspective is, whatever like the topic is that we're killing each other over today, or that we're arguing about, or that we're condemning people for, or cancelling each other for, whatever the topic, it doesn't matter if I agree with you or not. I want to be able to have a conversation with you about it.
Yeah.
I'm if you come into our channel especially, and like come listen to our podcast, come hang out in our socials and our Discord, I hope you're aware that no matter what your perspective is and how different it may be from ours, you will never be condemned here. You are loved, you are welcomed, you are accepted here. We want to connect with you as you are. I want us to have conversations and be civil about it. And if you never agree with that person, that's okay. Agree to disagree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need to get back to the point where we can disagree and still be 100% okay with the other person.
Yeah.
Like, that should not be abnormal. That should be a normal thing. You're never going to agree with everybody on everything. Like, even my wife and I, like, we disagree on like some big stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I have friends that, you know, them and the wives voted differently. You know, shocker, but they're still married, you know?
Yeah,
Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay.
It's
I mean,
okay to have different.
there are things that you should be like, that's not okay. You know, let's talk through that. Like racism,
Yeah.
not okay. Like let's talk through that. But at the same time, like some people are in a different point where they're processing through stuff, and you know, you might just have to walk them through that.
But that's the thing as well, though. That's the thing. Like, sitting having the conversation doesn't mean you're justifying the behaviour.
You're correct.
You know, like if I come down and I meet with someone who is a full blown 100% racist, who, like, you know, take what happens in America as the big one. The big one is like hate, you know, racism towards black people.
Mm.
They get treated differently. They're not seen as the same. They're not seen as equally human. All of that stuff. If you meet someone who is like that, my response to them should be the same response as I have to anyone else. Is that I can sit down and have a conversation. I disagree with you. I disagree with your stance. I don't think it's right. But I'm still going to show love to you. Hate what they stand for. You don't need to hate the person. You know, I realise we are so far off topic, but we're kind of going.
No, this is a good topic. Hey,
DS,
if you could turn my mic up a bit.
Oh yeah, sure.
I might be a little quiet.
Yeah, let me turn it up. Sorry, that's
Sorry about that.
Probably turn it down for music during the gaming streams. Let me turn it up a little.
D, I see your comment though. You said you can confirm this channel is the opposite of the problems we're talking about now. It's one of the biggest reasons I feel like I belong and loved in this community, even though I'm not a comic fan, and I don't even know these guys. These great guys are talking about half the time. Well, we appreciate you.
We appreciate it.
We really do. Yeah, we really do.
We appreciate that because
we honestly appreciate everybody that shows up, even if it's just a lurk. And I know a lot of people say that, but legit, we do. Because you're taking your time out.
You're taking your time out to come and support two guys that ramble about comics as their hobby, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this last little thing to wrap this up, because we really do need to get into the book, because we're already like past 3 o'clock. It's past our halfway point. I got challenged a long time ago. And it's a movie you can still find it online. You can still find like the digital download of it, and I was really challenged by it. And it was a movie called Furious Love. Anyone coming into the channel that's brand new, we are Christians. I do believe Jesus Christ is my Lord and Saviour, and this is a Christian documentary called Furious Love. And my perspective as a Christian was greatly challenged by this movie. It was challenged and it was pushed in the perspective of how you deal with other people. And it was simple stuff like a man standing on a street like during a college campus. You know, there was a bunch of different tables with a bunch of different like religions being on show. and standing there and, like, you know, just talking to people and showing love to them. And he even had, like, witches coming up to him, people who, like, you know, warlocks and Wiccans, and, you know, people who were like enemies of the Christians.
Yeah.
You know, oh, we shouldn't go into the Wiccans. You don't want to talk to witches. He talked to them.
Mm-hmm.
He showed them love. Even had the honor of praying with them. And he says, and one of the biggest things that happened to me, these men that came up to me didn't accept Jesus as their Lord and Saviour. They didn't become Christians. They didn't renounce it, he says. But one of the things was, one of the witches was wearing, he was wearing like a cloak with a hood up. And the guy just like lowered his hood. And he said it seemed like such a little thing, he says, but it's a sign of honour and respect for him to stand there and lower that hood next to someone like that who's meant to be an enemy. We've gotten into this weird perspective as Christians, and it's a big thing that we need to address as a whole in America, in this country, because so many people consider themselves Christians in a country founded on Christians. Is people are not the enemy, and they never have been.
I mean, I kind of am along the same lines. Like, I don't want to get too like religious or whatnot, but you know, in the Bible, when Jesus came on the scene, the people that he hung out with were considered the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Like, he hung out with prostitutes, he hung out with tax collectors, which were like worse than the worst people. He hung out with like the quote unquote dredges of society. That's who he chose to hang out with. And like, you know, Cross and I, we as Christians are supposed to use Jesus as an example of how to treat other people. So, yeah.
But that's it. Jesus hung out with the worst of the worst people in society, and I say the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
And I say, in that perspective, it was the ones that the religious authorities at the time considered horrible people.
Yeah.
He hung out with them, and the thing is that I love is he didn't like throw scripture at them. He didn't like slam them with the Bible and, you know, you're going to hell. You need to change your ways and you need to do that. No, he did none of that.
It's the only people he did that to were the people who were calling themselves religious.
Yeah, the religious people were the ones he did it to, because it's like, you should know better. This is the stuff you preach. Why aren't you living it?
Yeah.
To the people who were the worst of the worst, he sat down with them. He broke bread with them. He ate with them. He connected with them, and he loved them. He loved on them exactly where they were. And that has always been my driving force for Comics and the Cross. That was one of the main things behind me wanting to create this channel, was I don't want to come in here and shove scripture down people's throats and like hit them over the head with the Bible and tell them how horrible they're being. It's like, because I don't believe it. I believe in the furious love. I believe everyone comes in here. I don't care if you're gay, if you're bi, if you're transgender, if you're transsexual. I don't care if you're Muslim, if you're witch, if you're Wiccan, if you're, you know, Islamic, if you're Buddhist, if you're black, white, Asian, Native American. You know, it's like I don't care.
Yeah.
What differences we can create. I don't care if you voted for Biden, if you voted for Trump. I don't care if you love on people, or if you think you're from the supreme race. It's like, even you, if you're one of the ones that society considers horrible for that, it's like, we love you and want you to be here.
Yeah.
This place is designed for a furious love. You will be loved and you will be accepted. The only time I will ever kick you out of here, or I will ban you out of here, is if you full-blown start attacking the rest of the community and other members within the community. If you come in and you're respectful and show love, then you're welcome to stay. And that's to anyone. You do not have to be a Christian to come in here.
Right.
Look at these like comments. You don't even have to be a comic fan to come in here, and that's what we literally talk about on a weekly basis, is comics. You just have to come and be here. And we are more than happy to have you. And that's a big driving force. I don't know how we got on this rant and this topic today. This is not where we were going today, but Sometimes a conversation just has to happen, and we'll let
Yeah.
it happen. We are here to show furious love. We love each and every one of you, regardless of what your background is. We're not asking you to come in here and become Christian. We're not asking you to come in here and, I hope you do live that life. I hope you do get to know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, because I think it's an amazing life to live, and I think it's a blessing and a benefit on your life. But I'm not going to exclude you if you don't.
Yeah.
You are still welcome here. And we love you. And we're glad that you're here.
Yeah, you're alright.
Whether you're lurking, whether you're hanging out, whether you're chatting, whether you have a clue what we're talking about and are fully invested, or whether you have no clue and just like to hang out, we're glad you're here.
Yeah.
Alright, we have ranted way longer than we should have.
Wow.
We need to actually
That was a solid rant, man. That was a solid rant.
The conversation just seemed to go that way from that. I don't know. If that came up and it came out the way it did, I just trusted it was meant for someone. It was meant. First time chat viewer. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the Comic Clan. I am trying to see your name.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to say your name.
Isan. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go with Isan. Is a short for that. If there's a shorter word you want to be called by, a name you want to go by all means, please let us know. I am so sorry. I am awful at picking it up, because the only other thing, either it's going to be Isan, or the only other letters sticking out to me desperately are C-A-K, so I'm going to start calling you Cake.
Or Khaki.
Khaki, maybe Khaki.
We call him Khaki.
Isan Khaki.
We're probably murdering your screen name.
I apologize.
We apologize.
I apologize that we're probably murdering your screen name, and possibly
everybody has a nickname pretty much in our chat, so
I found you from Rat's Discord. Oh, nice, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, and thank you for the follow as well. We appreciate it greatly.
We're gonna call you Khaki.
Khaki is what we're going for. I'm going to go with Isan. He's going to go with Khaki. If there's something you really want, Isan.
Okay, got it. All right, we'll do that.
All right, but thank you so much for coming in, Isan. We greatly appreciate it. You missed a massive rant there, or maybe you caught it, and just as you're starting to chat. But we're now going to finally dive into Mouse Volume 2, and we're going to hit this pretty fast because we are way past our time to delve into this.
I mean, there's honestly, like we've said multiple times, not a lot happens in this book. I mean, just to kind of summarize it at a high level, like the first volume ends with him right at Auschwitz. Like he's captured and he's taken to Auschwitz. And for the majority of Volume 2, you spend time with him in Auschwitz, and he gets transferred to Dachau, which is another concentration camp. Yeah. But that's that's transposed with modern day times, or modern day with his son Art, and just family dynamics, and him growing old, him dealing with his health, him dealing with his wife who leaves him. Just not a lot happens, but it's a really cool narrative in Volume 2.
Yeah. Thank you, Isan, for redeeming the.
Isan, we're talking about. You may have heard this in the news, but this is Mouse. This was a graphic novel, Eisner-winning graphic novel, written by Art Spiegelman about his father, Vladek Spiegelman, who went through Auschwitz and Dachau concentration camps. So it's about them. It's about Vladek specifically, but then it's about also Art's relationship with his father as he's writing the book. And the cool thing about it is it kind of anthropomorphizes different people in the book. The Jews are mice. The Nazis are cats. And there's other, the Americans are dogs. Poles are pigs. French people are frogs. It's a really cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool take on it. It helps kind of get the foot in the door, learning a little bit about the concentration camps and what happened during World War II. And it's not quite as, I don't want to say it lulls you in, but it's almost like an easier step in.
Yeah.
Before you kind of start realizing it's serious. So the first volume really the first chapter in this one really kicks off with more of the real life stuff going on, as we find out that Vladek's current wife, his remarried wife that he's got, Mala, has finally left him. She finally hit her breaking point. So Art and his fiance are basically okay, we have to take care of her, and he takes the opportunity to learn a little bit more and delve into what happened at Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Auschwitz is just right from the get-go, it's horrible what happens here. I mean, even they get hosed down in the showers, they get tossed clothing to wear in the camp, Doesn't even
And
necessarily
they
need
don't
to
check the
fit.
size.
They
Yeah.
wear either big, it's too little. There's a guy that basically talks about how he wanders around and like he's got, pants are too big and like he's got
Yeah.
one shoe that keeps falling off and.
Can
Uh,
we say, I know we called it out in Volume 1, but can we say again how scrappy Vladik is and how resourceful this dude is? This dude somehow manages, and I don't want to make light of his situation, but this dude somehow manages to basically be the top echelon of Jewish people within the
this
concentration camp.
dude is a wheeler and dealer. He
Dude, he
somehow
is, man.
like I
Like,
kind of I
there's
talked
this
to
one
Jay a little
example.
bit about it. You know how you talk about the fact of like we talked like some of the way that we see Vladik in like the current day when Art's writing it,
Hmm.
and we're like people automatically kind of go like, oh, that's probably what the war that made him do that, made him like
Yeah.
resourceful and grabbing onto stuff
Hmm.
and not wanting to utterly use.
Yeah.
I would actually argue the opposite of like because they talk about oh he was always like that. That's probably half of the stuff that made him
Yeah.
get through and survive. Excuse me, the way that he did.
Yeah.
Is because like that instinct was in him to like save stuff and to use stuff to barter and to bargain and to try and get his what he was looking for. Like it probably hit.
I would say like that's the reason he survived Auschwitz and Dachau. Like I don't want to. There's so many situations that he was able to kind of like leverage to put him in a better position to kind of help, both his wife Anya and other people and himself. But like one specifically or two specifically that I'm thinking of, people were looking for a tin man to help repair roofs. He had never worked tin before, never. But he's like, I'm a tin man, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And he
He's like
learned on
I
the
used
job.
I used to work near one of them. Like I went into the factory to do other stuff and I seen them working
Yeah.
and it's like he watched the guys working on it once or twice and like oh yeah I could
Yeah.
do that
Yeah.
and just like completely talked his way into jobs and
And then another one, a Nazi general came in and somebody had told him that he repaired shoes, and a Nazi general brought in one of his boots, and he's like, "This needs to look brand new, or I'm gonna kill you," basically.
yeah.
So he's like, "I can do it." So he took it to a Leatherman that he knew in the camp and watched how he did it, and then he started repairing shoes.
He learned how he did it so he could do this perfectly. Like traded with him, bartered his food with him that he had so that he could get it done perfectly. Watched him so he could do it himself so that he could fix him because the guard then started sending all his friends to him. Like, oh, this guy did a perfect job. Go see him. Started getting all
So
this work.
he basically made himself indispensable, and I honestly think that's the reason he survived. If he hadn't have been as resourceful as he was, he would not have survived. Because there
And
was
even
just
it-
so many close calls in this book with him.
And even then, though, like he starts off like at the very beginning, like they get into Auschwitz and he starts like he's struggling there, and he gets a priest that talks to him in the beginning that helps him through, and okay, life starts and it's very hard, and even the foreman's very hard on him, who's like a Polish guy who's in the camp as well, but just is a little higher than them.
Yeah,
But he like makes friends with the dude because he's like, I can teach you English.
yeah.
So
What's going on with your light, dude?
I have no idea. It's kind of doing its own thing.
Dude, and so
Yeah.
it's kind of talking about what we were talking about earlier. Like when he encounters that priest in the camp, the priest is not Jewish. The priest, I assume, is either Catholic or Christian.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he utilizes his knowledge of Jewish culture and Jewish, religion to help Vladik through. And
Yeah,
that's
because he
kind of what we were
points out,
talking
like,
about
because
earlier.
he points out like the number on his arm that he's been branded
Yeah.
with, and like different things that the numbers represent in
Yeah.
like, Jewish law. Because like one
That's
thing that
empathy.
I got interested in for a little while was the fact of like numbers that appear in the Bible and as a result in the Jewish text as well in the Torah and stuff. They tend to represent something. There
Yeah.
tends to be a reason for them, and this priest does that. Like these things are like, well, this represents this, and this represents
Yeah.
this, and he says it honestly helped me, got me to kind of through that first night. He says, never
Yeah.
seen the guy again.
It's that empathy. It's that listening to someone. It's that talking somebody through somebody and just listening to their story.
But yeah, so Vladik makes himself indispensable by like the guy that's kind of like over the head of the prisoners. Like he starts teaching them English. And he's like he wants to know English because like he knows German at the minute, and that's kind of helped him get in with the Germans and not be as punished in the camp. But he's like, yeah, but if they get overrun, like the Brits and the Americans come in, they're all going to speak English. So I want to be able to speak English with them and get on. This guy's hedging his bets on either side, whoever wins this war. But he starts like treating Vladik well, like he gives him food and stuff, lets him pick out new like prison garb.
Yeah.
For him and for his friend, and like to like that actually fit and get some stuff for them. It's really But at the same time, you start getting little hints of like some of the horrible stuff that's going on as well at camp.
Hmm.
Like people are getting worked like crazy. Like it shows like a picture of one of the guards would just like steal caps off of prisoners and throw them and
Hmm.
tell them to go get it. And as soon as the guy went to get it, he would shoot him and claim that he was running away. And like so, that guard literally put a situation where he threw the hat away, made the guy go get it, would shoot him, and then get a week off for it for stopping an escape. So it's like, but like even at the very beginning, Auschwitz feels like it's like, oh, it's rough, but like it doesn't feel like it's too bad quite this yet. Like you can tell we're not in the thick of it yet.
Yeah.
Like there's some hardships here, but at the same time, this must get worse.
And it alludes to, I mean, later on in the book, it alludes to occasionally, pretty often, I guess, they would round up people, separate them into groups, and basically mass exterminate one of the groups.
Mm.
And numerous times in in this volume, volume 2, Vladik was tipped off by some of the people that he was helping of which group was going to be taken out. And
Yeah,
they were like, you need to go in this group instead of this group, or get over
yeah,
to the left instead of this group.
yeah.
And
Like he even
sometimes
said, I
he would
just
even
stand at the
hide.
far left, do this, go over
Yeah,
here, and you'll be fine. And
yeah.
literally, without that advice, he would not have made it.
No, he would not have.
Um,
There was one time where I was like, dude, they didn't check the bathroom, but he hid in the bathroom
yeah,
when
he
they were
hid in the
doing
bathroom and he just
installations.
sat there and thought, if they come in, I'll just say that I've got a really like bad stomach and I'm stuck here. And it's like they never came and checked the bathroom. It's like he
No.
just sat there till the more detail was over. It was kind of awesome.
Um,
I do want to mention into them because very early on in chapter 2, like we kind of mentioned it earlier, we get that my light is doing all sorts of weirdness. It's just, I think it's one of the bulbs is going out. Um, yeah, let me go and swap my light over.
all right, sounds
But
good.
yeah, we're going to talk about start of chapter 2. The fact of like it opens with, Vladik's real life
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
death.
yeah.
So
So
give me one
and
sec.
I was gonna talk about that. So right when you pop into chapter 2, there's a picture of Art at the drawing table basically, and he's working on a comic. And he's kind of narrating his own life, and he's talking about how his dad had passed in 1982. And there's a really, I don't want to say cool picture, but there's a really unique picture of him. He's writing at his writing desk, and underneath him are just bodies of dead Jews under him. So you can tell, like, not only the death of his dad that he's trying to process, but he's trying to process what he's actually writing. Um,
Yeah.
and
And it's very
it's,
interesting because like it kind of goes into a bit more. We get a meta kind of commentary on it as well.
mhm,
As like he starts talking about like since the first books came out and the first volume has been a critical success at this point.
mhm.
But he starts talking about it like he's getting interviewed and tell the viewers what message you wanted to get from your book. And he's like, a message? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
He's like, oh, I never thought of reducing it to a message. It wasn't meant to convince anyone of anything. Like your book's being
mhm,
translated into German. Many younger Germans had it up to here with the Holocaust stories. These things happened before they were even born. Why should they feel guilty? Who am I to say that? I'm not trying to make people feel guilty. I'm just trying to tell my dad's story.
and he's like,
Um,
maybe they should feel guilty.
and it's like a lot of the corporations that flourish now were back from when Nazi, so maybe everyone should feel guilty.
Yeah,
And he's like, let's talk about Israel. If this book was about Israeli Jews, what kind of animal would you draw? And it's like, I don't know. Porcupines? I don't know. And it's like, alright, check out this licensing deal. It's like, you've read the book, now get the vest. And you get the profits and put to this, and it's just constant bombardment of stuff. And he's like, I just wanted to tell my dad's story. Like, he even talks about the fact of them, like, he got, like, offers to make it into a show and make it into a movie. And he's
yeah,
like, I don't wanna.
yeah.
That's not the purpose of it. I never made it to make money off of it. I made it to tell my dad's story. And I
And
put it
then
into a comic book form because I'm an artist.
he gets to a point where he kind of gets overwhelmed, and it's kind of really sad. Like, you can see his character in the frame shrinking to the size of a little kid, and then he basically just says, "I want my mommy,"
Yeah.
and that's like heartbreaking because obviously his mom committed suicide about 20 years earlier,
Yeah.
prior, or 15 years prior.
And
And then
then
there's a section where he's at the shrink and he's kind of talking through, and his shrink, it was also a survivor of the Holocaust, so that I feel like he's uniquely positioned to kind of help him in his relationship with his dad because he's still trying to process his dad's death and what his relationship with his dad meant. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, there
so it's
was
like
some really good conversations with that with the shrink.
yeah, so we get a really great perspective of that and just kind of what he's going through because like this is the first time like we're getting almost like a meta commentary of a response to the book within the book.
Hmm.
And because obviously like it's a response to volume one, but he's still writing volume two, mixed
Yeah.
in with the fact of like his dad passing away, and like you know he got all the conversations. We'll see later that he still got to speak with his dad, and gets right up to the end of the book.
Hmm.
But at the same time, like his father passing away not too long after it. You know,
Yeah.
before the second volume was even like released.
And there's a really cool visual thing happening at the bottom of 46, top of 47. So as he's getting done with the shrink, hold on, let me see if I can hold this up. As he's getting done with the shrink at the bottom, you can see he's going from the kid, and he's basically saying, I don't know, every time I have conversations with this guy, it makes me feel better. And then he's talking about maybe this is what I can do with the book. And then if you go to the top of the page, he starts playing recordings from his dad, and he starts to shrink back down to the little kid. So like you can tell like he's just having trouble processing,
Yeah,
you know.
it's just a massive thing for him to process. It's a
Yeah.
massive thing for it to go through.
Yeah.
But then we delve back into Auschwitz. We get more of the rest of the story. So Vladik's
Hmm.
doing his thing of like managing to swindle his way into like his tin work and stuff happens at this point. You get perspectives which I really love of like talking about them getting food. Of like you had to pick your spot in the food line, like they were getting bowls of soup, and it's like if you went too early in the line, you basically got a bowl of water. You wanted to get like later on in the line, so you would get like chunky bits of soup with food in it and
Hmm.
vegetables and different stuff. But if you waited too far to the back of the line, you got nothing.
Yeah.
There was like one barrel for everybody, and like if you didn't get food, you didn't get food. And this seems to be like a reoccurring thing,
Yeah. And
you
then it
know.
kind of goes into the layout of the camp, Auschwitz specifically, how it's kind of split up into two camps, and the relationship between him and Anya, because Anya was in the bigger part, so Auschwitz 2, which was Birkenau, I believe,
Yeah, yeah,
and then he
Birkenau.
was in the smaller Auschwitz 1. Um, but it just talks about the how he managed to kind of get food to Anya and get letters and communication to Anya to figure out if she was still alive and how she was doing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see because like again, like Vladik manages to make these connections, and we get a little bit of Anya's story as well here of like how she's actually getting it rough, whereas like Vladik is a wheeler and dealer that's connected with the foreman
Hmm.
and is kind of getting a little bit of preferential treatment. Like she's completely the opposite. Like she's carrying like barrels of soup, the food for like the whole camp, but
Yeah.
it's too heavy for her to carry.
Hmm.
And she keeps spilling it, and even though she keeps spilling it, like she keeps getting told like she's getting given the job of the foreman and then getting the crap beaten out of her for not doing the job and
Yeah.
stuff. It's like so she's very much getting like a lot harder than what Vladik's getting. Um, but yeah, as it kind of goes on, like again, Vladik just kind of keeps working his way through. He ends up becoming the shoemaker as we talked about. He actually gets to see Anya. That's right, I forgot about that. Like he manages to get work like with his tin
Oh yeah,
roofing,
that's right.
like fixing the roofs of some of the stuff that's on in the women's camp. So he actually gets to go over there and gets to see Anya and kind of briefly speak with her.
Hmm.
But it doesn't last on for too long. You know, it's like they can't really talk for too long or pretend that they're even interacting. And I think it's him who ends up getting the crap beat out of him at one point for it.
Yeah, because he
Um,
says the guard catches him talking to Anya.
yeah, so the guard like literally pounds him and he has to get carried back to Auschwitz. Um, we also get a look at what was it they called? It's like they get basically like a medical checkup where
Oh
it's like the
yeah.
guys like basically strip them down and like check over them, or like are they still strong? Are they healthy? Is there any rashes or medical issues or anything like
Yeah.
that? And if you're too much, like if there's too much going on or there's rashes or anything like that, then you basically get taken off to the side
Hmm.
and you end up disappearing. And these guys end up going to the chamber, the gas
Yeah.
chambers, which they don't really know at the time, but like there's rumors kind of already starting.
Yeah, and like in a lot of panels in this volume, the smokestacks of the crematorium like loom large over the panels. Like it's presented tons of times in this volume.
Yeah. Um, We then start to see that they start building more barracks next to Auschwitz, the first one. And there's a rumour that they're going to start moving some of the female prisoners there. So Vladik is, starts wheeling and dealing and like working out what do I need to pay to get Anya moved there.
Yeah.
And there's even like a thing of like he has to like save up so much bread to pay for certain things, to pay for cigarettes to use to pay for vodka, so that he can pay off guards and try and get her there. And then even like when Anya does move there, he tries to like toss her extra food, and that gets her in trouble because she gets caught one day. And literally getting attacked by her foreman, and makes them like all of them exercise until like some of them are literally dropping dead.
Yeah, but nobody
like,
tattles on her.
Nobody tattles, nobody does anything like that, which is it's insane. When we get to page 70, we get a really harrowing thing that one of the 10 things that he had to do was to work at Auschwitz. And my camera's here.
So it's basically a diagram of
and we get like a map diagram
the gas chambers,
of the layout of the gas chamber, which I don't know, there's something very shaking about seeing the description of it laid out like this, and there's something almost very shaking about the fact of like it's literally set up like this is some sort of shower spa sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like when they come in, there's like stuff up on the walls and there's hooks to hang their stuff up on, as if they're about to get a freaking spa treatment. And then they get hustled in and gassed, and it's like, and then it's like, it's one of those things of like, see whatever you think of Auschwitz, the stories you think you've heard, like they get gassed and it's horrible, and these dead bodies, and like when the doors would open, there'd be like dead bodies piled at the door because those that survive longer are like desperately trying to get out, and claw marks and scratch marks, and then it's like, because I thought that's horrible enough, and then it goes on to, oh yeah, by the way, some of them survived that. And what did they do with them? They tossed them in the pit out the back of the gas chambers with all the dead bodies and set it alight. So they burned the bodies to get rid of them, and if you happen to survive the gas chamber, you didn't survive long because they just set you on fire with the corpses.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god. Like, oh my goodness, like, dude.
Yeah. And like I know this is like this is some really intense stuff.
Yeah, this
so
is
just
about to
obviously
get...
warning, but it talks about them taking the fat from the bodies that they burned and pouring it on the people that they put into the pit so they would burn better. I'm just like, good grief, man.
Yeah, and I love that Art even asks him about that. Like, did nobody ever fight back? Like, if they knew what was going on, and he's like, well, you know, try and take some of the guards with you, sort of thing. And it's like, oh yeah, some guys fought back and even killed some of the guards. You know, the girl, and he says like, but the girls just snuck the guys the ammunition to do it. The guys got killed and then they got hung for it.
Yeah.
Like any sort of rebellion was quelled instantly and with overkill. To ensure that nobody else did it.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, I had a buddy, he worked for a German company. It's like an automotive company. And he had to fly over there for something, and he visited Dachau, which is there's another concentration camp that we'll talk about a little in just a moment, but he got a chance to go into the gas chamber, and he said you can see where like people had scraped into the concrete, and like it was terrifying. It was terrifying.
And it just feels like every time Vladik came close to something kind of good, it just started to fall apart from here. Like, like learning that stuff, it just feels like it gets worse and worse from here.
It definitely gets worse and worse from here.
Like he makes friends with a dude who said like makes a space up in the attic of like, okay, they're going to start shuffling people. Look, the war's ending. They're going to start shifting people from the camps back to Germany now. But we're going to come up here, and a bunch of us are going to hide and stay out the road and find our way out.
Yeah.
And then when they start to do that, the dude comes running up like, we need to get out. We need to leave with the rest of them. They're literally about to burn down and bomb this site. They're going to leave nothing standing.
Yeah.
And like, so their way to try and get out there is completely derailed. They're forced to walk through the forests, which is like people are just like keeling over, dying
Mm-hmm.
in the walk through this forest in the winter. You know, as they end up there, they start getting marched like a fair distance. Yeah, what was it?
It's about 120 miles, I think,
Mm,
if I had to
yeah,
guess.
it was something like that. It's like, I mean, like they get marched a long way and they finally get to a train station, and it's not a normal train. It's like a cattle train where they put like horses and cattle in the stables, like coaches, and they cram as many Jews as they can fit.
To me, I think this is probably one of the worst parts of the story. Like Auschwitz and
This
Dachau are obviously awful, but this train ride was just
Everything that
cannot
happens
believe.
from the train ride onward freaking gets me. I thought Auschwitz was going to be the worst thing, but like this feels like the never-ending torture because this is like you're almost at this point thinking the war's done.
Yeah, I feel like I need to read a little bit of this.
Yeah, go for it. Go for
Hold
it.
on, hold on. So, yeah, so basically they put everybody into a train. We lay one on top of another like matches, like herrings. I pushed to a corner not to get crushed. High up, I saw a few hooks to chain up maybe some animals. So he basically took his sheet and hung it on some hooks so he could be above everyone.
Yeah, they made like a
There's
little
two.
hammock where he like was like
I had,
above. So let me show the picture of that.
yeah, I had still the thin blanket they gave me. I climbed to somebody's shoulder and hooked it strong. In this way, I can rest and breathe a little. This saved me. Maybe 25 people came out from this car of 200.
That's 175 people crammed into this car that didn't come back out alive.
Yeah. And they didn't give him any food, no water. The reason he was able to survive was he scraped snow off the top of the train.
And then, of
Um,
course, they all started fighting, trying to get him to give them snow and give them something.
the train stayed so without moving, I don't know how long, up to a week. Then one day they opened. Throw out the dead and clean up your filth. The dead had bread left, or better, shoes we kept. They didn't need any more. Outside, many trains standing for weeks, what they never opened, and it was everyone dead inside. They closed us again. We were very happy we had now room where to stand. Near to the door, we piled up new dead ones. Each day the Germans opened. How many dead? And we threw out, and soon we had room to even to sit. Then the train started again, going and going. Inside we were more, dying, and some got crazy. So it's just like weeks and weeks of them traveling on a train, not being fed,
No
not being
food,
watered.
no water. Like, even like
It's
that, like, I love the description that he kind of puts in it because it's just the thought of like they pulled into a station and you think it's over and then the train sits there for weeks.
hmm
And I'm like, and even like that, it talks about there was nowhere to stand, so anyone that fell, whether or not they wanted to, ended up getting trampled on.
hmm
And like, and all these dead bodies piling up, he still has to clean up your filth. And I'm like thinking, like, yeah, there's no food and there's no water, but they're still going to the bathroom. They still have to,
hmm
you know, it's like relieve themselves. And it's like this was sick. And then they clean out the dead bodies, clean up their own filth, grab the stuff they wanted off the corpses because they didn't need it. But then you're
Yeah.
shuffled back in, and it's just like rinse, cycle, repeat, you know.
hmm
And it was that way all the way to Dachau. Like I can only imagine how many actually came out of those trains compared to how many initially got on them. It's
Yeah, man.
insane, you know. And then they finally get to Dachau, and it's like they are all crammed in to a single space, all having to lie in it. And all of it's like, yeah, you have to go and get your soup and go and get your food and go and get whatever. It's like, yeah, but if you've got lice on you, you don't get anything. And they're living in beds that have literally got lice all over them.
Yeah.
So it's like impossible to not have lice. And it's like, and he says, and
And
have, he's like,
again, when he manages to somehow hoodwink his way into being able to barter for a new shirt.
yeah, because I love it. It's like, heaven forbid, like you spill someone else's food, because like they're
Mm,
literally killing each other over this.
hmm Yeah.
What little food some of them were actually able to get. But even before he swindles into getting more soup, like the first thing he does is like he gets the injury in his hand and he makes it worse,
Yeah.
so he can go to the infirmary. Because in the infirmary, like he can do like certain little jobs with a single-handedly,
Then he gets 3 meals a day,
but
I
he gets
think.
3 meals a day. It's like, and he keeps like kind of re-injuring the hand until like he can't do it anymore until they're getting suspicious and they kind of like, okay, it's getting better.
Yeah.
And then he goes out into the field. And he makes friends with a Frenchman who is like, how the hell did he even get here? Like, he's not Jewish, he's not anything like that. It's like just somehow ended up in one of the camps and was shuffled back here with everyone else.
Yeah.
Poor guy only speaks French and English, so he's been desperately looking for someone at the camp that speaks English. Because like, he's literally been there not able to communicate with anybody, so Vladiki basically adopts him.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he's not Jewish, so he starts getting like packages from the Red Cross.
Mm-hmm.
Which are full of food, so he manages to make friends with Vlad. Once he's made friends with Vladik, he shares it. And then Vladik starts bartering with it. So, I've got a chocolate bar. And it's like, what do you want? It's like, your shirt. So I'm going to freeze give you that and your bread ration. And I'm like, okay. And then he gets the shirt, cleans it off, keeps it hidden away, and then displays it every time he has to show his shirt. And if there's lice in it for getting food.
Mm-hmm.
And he does the same thing. They do the same barter to get the Frenchman out, so that the two of them like share, like show off these clean shirts so they can get food and make sure that they stay well fed.
Yeah.
Then, as much as he wheels and deals, what happens next is sheer luck he survived. Because they all start to contract typhus.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get treatment.
Nope.
They're all like suffering in beds. They've all got fevers and sweats, and they're not sleeping through the night. He talks about like to go to the bathroom, like I had to like go downstairs and literally walk over corpses, standing on them, to get there, worrying I'm going to slip and fall, and worrying like if I die here, am I just going to be one of the next corpses to get stood on? And like he literally is like dying in his bed. He tries to scream and he can, and gets to the point the only way he can move is if people carry him. He has to like use his bread to barter to get people to take him to the bathroom when he needs to go, and they have to carry him out when they finally get the news that the strong enough prisoners are getting put on a train for a prisoner exchange. You know, it's like how the heck he made it to the train. He's like, I have no idea. It's like I had to get carried out.
Because he said even if they let go for a second, he fell because he just couldn't hold himself up.
And like, but he makes his way onto the train, and like they were shocked because he's like, I thought this was for the Gestapo, and I'm like, no, this is an actual train, like not a cattle train, not a one for transporting animals, like a literal train.
Yeah.
And it's like blew his mind. And then like starts the journey of
The very, very end.
the multiple releases, which is the
This would be
only way I
torture.
could describe it. Like this guy,
Yeah.
the war's over pretty much at this point. Like as we go into this part of it, like
Mhm.
there's a prisoner exchange, the war's over, and like there's multiple times here where they think they're free, get captured, think they're about to die, something happens, they're fine, and it just
Yeah.
keeps happening, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Like at one time, the Germans round up the Jews that they find, and they line them up near a lake, and they line up machine guns all around them, so obviously they're going to exterminate them. And so they go to sleep that night thinking that they're not going to wake up, and then they wake up and the Germans are gone and the machine guns are there.
Yeah. Well, even in the setup for that, like they basically get tossed on a train.
Yeah.
And they're getting told like, okay, you're going to go to the next town over. There'll be Americans there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and he said this was the first time like we got in the news that the war was over, but this was the first time we really felt it. Was
Mhm.
because none of the Germans got on the train with us, and like the train stops and we're like, there's no one here. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're free, and they split off in different directions, and then that group of Germans finds them.
Yeah.
And lines them up at the lake. And I love one of the descriptions as well, like this old dude in his 50s literally says screw this and jumps into the lake and swims for it, and he gets away. Like the dude literally gets away. They can't shoot him, they keep missing.
Hilarious.
And like he literally saw his chance and went, screw this, I'm going. And he made it. And Vladik and his friend says if the real shooting starts, we'll do the same. We'll swim for it and hope for the best. But yeah, they wake up the next morning, as you said, they find all the machine guns left there, the Germans are gone, so they start heading down the road. And walk straight into another German army troop who round them up. And stick them in a barn, and this one's kind of worse because they hear like gunfire going off in the hills and all this. But they wake up the next morning and they're gone again.
And they just open the door and just walk out.
And they just wander out, and then like they find a place to stay, but it's a German guy who's like ready to hand them over. But they find an empty house with a bunch of stuff in it. Like, they sleep in the barn, they find, like, milk and food and different things.
They drink so much milk they get sick.
Yeah. It's like they get a change of clothes and all this. And then the Americans show up. And it's like, for the first time, it's like, we're literally free.
Yeah.
We're properly free. Because, like,
Yeah.
the Americans tell them, like, yeah, the only Germans left are either dead or dying. And it's like, yeah, there's no Germans here. And Vladik, being the man he is, or Willie, as they call him, it becomes his nickname for some reason, because apparently Americans can't say Vladik.
Willie.
They basically take them on because he keeps doing up their uniforms and everything for them, and the Americans give them food. He basically works his way into a job working with the Americans. Like,
dude, immediately. It's hilarious.
I don't know how he does this.
Mode.
I don't know how he does it, but like almost immediately, every time Vladik gets a job doing something. But yeah, the next little bit is very kind of sad because it comes back to the real world and he starts showing all the pictures.
He finds a box of pictures that he wants to show his son, yeah.
And it's all family members from like Anya's side, and it's mostly Anya's side. He goes through a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost even more heartbreaking when he describes his side of the family, because it's like, well, there's all these people who says, well, what about your family? And he's like, me and my little brother.
Yeah.
That's all that's left. And I don't know if you've got it handy, I can grab it if not. Like the family,
I don't, yeah, the little pamphlet.
The family tree, like,
yeah.
Because Nitro showed this, if you saw this last week, Nitro showed this off, and I feel like just like reading those chapters just made it hit home, like hearing Vladik talk about it. But okay, here's the Spiegelman family tree. Like the grayed out names of people that died before the war. Before the war happened, though, this is all the family members, right? And down here is like Vladik and Anya, and then their first son, Richu. Then this is the family tree after the war.
Yeah, that's insane, man.
Like
80%.
I can't comprehend that.
No.
Because you're like, yeah, maybe something happened and all these people died. Like, no, the only difference was the war.
Mm-hmm.
These people all died during the war. Like, that is insane to me.
Yeah.
This whole family almost entirely wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it was a genocide.
Oh yeah.
It was so close to being a genocide. I'm like, the fact that any of the Jews survived, it wasn't for lack of them freaking trying. It's nuts. But yeah, so like the final chapters are really interesting when we get a lot more of the current day stuff. Like Vladik, is having heart trouble, gets back together with Mala somehow.
Yeah, because I know we kind of touched on it briefly, but Mala, right at the beginning of the volume 2, Mala has basically left Vladik.
Yeah, she's left, leaving poor Art
taking his money
and Francois to like take care of him, which Art is not happy about. Art does not get on that well with his father. Like he's like, I want to be around you all the time, and I understand that. If my dad talked to me the way he did, I'd never want to see him either. To be honest,
if he threw my coat away, I would be the same way.
But yeah, so Mala comes back and it's like, but his dad doesn't want to be taken care of there. He wants to go to a hospital in New York, which I love. They go through all this stuff to get him medically transported back to New York.
Dude, it's hilarious.
Which is really interesting to me because, like, having worked with like medical referrals and like travel insurance, I've seen a lot of this side of that stuff and what goes into setting that stuff up. And he literally gets all this stuff set up to go back to New York to get told, oh yeah, there's nothing much here, isn't he? To be hospitalised, he just needs to be observed at home.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Do you know what? Do you know what I went through to get him up here? Is it even need to be the freaking hospital? But we get the interesting kind of wrap up of like, well, what happened to Vladik after the war? And like, he ends up like again talking himself into a job. Like he's not allowed to stay with Americans anymore. They're setting up like stuff for like refugees to try and get them back and stuff. And eventually he ends up like setting up shop in Switzerland, like because like going back to Poland is like there's nothing there. But he keeps in touch with like the Jewish community in the area, trying to like get letters through because he's still trying to find his family. He's still trying to find Anya.
Yeah.
But he ends up working with like a department store, or he tries to get in with a department store, and the guy's like, you don't even speak Swedish. We don't need any more salesmen. You don't even speak the language to sell the stuff. And he's like, look, I sold textiles and hosieries like in Poland. I can sell anything. I was like, okay, well, we've got a bunch of stock in the warehouse of this unfashionable knee-length stocking, but nobody's able to sell it. He's like, perfect.
I got it.
So he says, so in the US, Uncle Herman, who he talks about he tries to come over and live with and stuff, to get to the States. That's his big plan. But it's like, yeah, in the US, Uncle Herman, again, had a hosiery factory and sent him a bunch of full-length nylon stockings, which were impossible to get in Sweden at the time. And so he goes to the stores and basically goes to sell these ones that his uncle sent him, which of course they can't get, and they're like, yeah, we'll buy them. We'll buy as many as we can get. And he says, okay, the only thing is that you need to take these like unfashionable knee-length things along with them. And I love the dude's like, yeah, we'll just throw them away. Whatever we need to do to get these though, we need them. So like, he manages to sell the stock by selling something completely different and giving it away with them that he got for free. That's even better. So it makes it look like he's a great salesman that sold the crap that nobody could sell. So he's becoming practically a partner in the firm. And I'm like, how in the world is this guy constantly ending up on top? Like, he's like wheeled and dealed his way into everything and gotten away with it. It's a miracle. So it's like, so he says a few years later, visas came through for America, and so they done a big surprise party and about them leaving and stuff. Oh, that's the hospital stuff. I was going to read the next page and that's not it. But yeah, so does the whole registration thing. It's like, we can't stay here anymore. They get sent back. He goes through a whole big medical stuff as his typhus starts to come back again, because of course it does.
Of course.
Only to eventually like kind of messages get through that his wife is alive. He meets friends of his who's like, yeah, she's alive, she's in Poland. So he writes her a letter, and his whole mission becomes get back to Poland.
Mm-hmm.
Get back there to see her, and they're like, don't go back to Sosnowiec, don't go back there. Like, if you go back there, like, the Poles are literally killing the Jews still. Like, literally a friend of ours went to try and get his family bakery back, and another family had taken it over and like beat the crap out of him. Like, only way Anya's gotten away with it is she never tried to get back her family stuff. And it's like, you know, you even see stuff like, she goes to see like a gypsy fortune teller and stuff. Like she doesn't believe in that crap, and it's like, but yet she went to see her anyway because she needed some sort of hope. Which I kind of love the fact as well, the gypsy like fortune teller is a butterfly.
Yeah.
I don't know why, I just feel like that fits really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like he ends up like sending a picture and stuff, and letter to her, and it comes with a picture. Which, if I can show this off,
yeah, this is
we actually get a real picture of Vladek Spiegelman. I mean, like, he wasn't alive. He's a good looking boy.
He's a nice looking dude.
Yeah, he's a good looking lad. I'm like, yeah. So he decides to go to Poland. He takes his friend Shivik with him. He goes off to get some supplies and leaves like his suitcase with Shivik on the train. Makes note of the train number where it is, and he comes back an hour later and it's gone.
It's hilarious.
As a Shivik, and he's like, so he's just left with like the clothes on his back in the water that he found.
And then he walked for like 3 or 4 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks walking back to Poland. They're like, this man is freaking hardcore. He really is. But then the great last page is that we see them finally meeting. Like, he shows up to a bunch of people that he knows in Sosnowiec, who send people out, go get Anya, go get her here right now, and they meet each other again, and they have like their reunion. And it's also kind of like a sad little last couple of panels on the page as well, because he's lying in bed, he's sick, he's definitely getting older. We're not that far from his passing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And he says to him, so let's stop, please, your tape recorder. It's like, I'm tired from talking, reach you. And it's enough stories for now. And I'm like, his mind's gone.
Yeah.
He doesn't realise he's talking to Art. He thinks he's talking to his oldest son.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, he's not long for this world. And then it ends kind of appropriately, but also kind of sadly as well, with a double grave with Spiegelman for Vladik and Anya and their dates of birth and death on them. And it's like, yeah. This book
It doesn't end on an upper.
It doesn't end on a massive upper, but it ends phenomenally.
Yeah.
This is a roller coaster of a book.
Yeah.
This
It
is
was really, really intense, man.
Roller coaster of emotions, traveling along with Vladik, all the stuff he goes through. Like, this book wrecked me.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been hit by a comic in the way that this hit. It was totally different from anything you've ever read, any comic you've ever picked up. This is something completely different.
Yeah, and again, with this volume, I found myself not necessarily looking at the pictures, but just reading it. Like, reading what was on the page, you know?
You get so engrossed in this story.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy to get lost in Art's telling of his dad's story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a powerful, hard-hitting story. I'm so glad I read this, and I would recommend it.
Yeah, definitely.
I would highly recommend this, both volumes 1 and 2.
If you can get your hands on it.
Yeah, to anyone, whether it's the separate ones, whether it's the boxed version, whether it's the omnibus of both, whatever version you can get, I would recommend it highly.
Yeah.
Cannot get them back in the box. But yeah, this has been one of the most phenomenal books we've ever touched in the Indie Comic Book Club. I don't think there's anything we're going to read on here that's going to hit in that same way ever again.
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of the stuff we've covered it's not designed for that emotional kind of hit. I mean, the chances of reading another comic that's a real life story is not likely at the best of times as well.
Yeah.
But Mouse has been phenomenal.
Agreed. Yeah, this is a really good pick. I'm really glad we got a chance to read it.
It's been a phenomenal story. Again, massive shout out to Richmond Comics, who hooked us up when everyone else was sold out of this, getting us 2 copies of this, which is like, at this point in time, is like gold dust. You just can't get it. It's like, it's impossible, but it's phenomenal story. It has impacted in such an amazing way, and such an phenomenal life story, and such like an amazing insight into World War II, into the concentration camps, into Auschwitz and Dachau.
Yeah. If you're even mildly interested in the Holocaust, World War II history, from a history perspective, I would absolutely recommend reading this, especially if you're a comic book fan.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. I would recommend this to anyone. Whether you're a comic fan, whether you're not, whether you love history, whether you don't, whether you have a clue about World War II and what took place there, whether you don't, this would be my number 1 must read for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Of any book. If you pick up any book we ever recommend, pick up Mouse. 100% pick us up. You will not be, don't get me wrong, you're not going to get it anytime soon. Yeah, if you get it, you're pre-ordering it and waiting until whenever they come back in stock. Like, everywhere sold out of this. Libraries are out of stock of it and got waiting lists for like a year now, and all this insanity for this book. And I 100% think this should be in our curriculum, and our kids need to be made aware of the real lifeness of this. And as they come into their teens, which was the age range reading this, I think that's an important age to start reading this stuff, because we talked about it last week. The teens are the years when you start to form opinions. You start to change from being I am, my parents' child, to I am me. I am the person who I am. That's when you start to solidify your character for the first real time as a person on your own.
Yeah.
And I think having that, we often miss that opportunity with our children because we're still too busy trying to protect them from everything.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of making them aware of, like, this is real life.
Yeah.
This stuff is in the world, and I would rather my kids read this stuff and had a conversation with me about it.
Yeah, I agree.
Then we just take it out and, like, pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, the stuff in here is hard hitting. This isn't stuff I would say they read every single week unless it was something they were really into, and that was the road they were going down, was to start reading historical stuff like this or World War II or get into that. But it's a conversation I think they need to have, and something they need to be challenged on, and I would say it's something a lot of adults need to be challenged with as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would 100% say like the people who like voted against it and the unanimous decision that they made had never read this book.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost guarantee that,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption.
because the little, like, he cusses a couple of times, like he literally says like sh 3 or 4 times across 2 volumes.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say the F word at all. We see very sparse nakedness. If you listened to me last week, the difference between nakedness and nudity.
Yeah.
There's no nudity in this book because there's no sexual connotation or alluringness to it, but there's a couple of scenes of nakedness.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just the reality of the camp. And if you violence, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, you're going to talk about the Holocaust. It was violent.
Yeah.
It was horrific what happened, and like, there's no way of getting around that. I sorry if that's something that impacts you in a negative way and you don't want to talk about it, but like that's part of this book. That's part of history. That's part of the Holocaust and World War Two.
Yeah.
Real life. That's what happened. That's like us talking about, if you want to look at an event we lived through, something like 9/11, and try to not talk about the violence of it, or the suffering or the death that happened in it, and like, kind of can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of it, whether you want it to be or not.
Yeah.
Just me D saying, I feel like the only thing more tragic than tragedy is not learning from it, and that's why books like this are so important. Yes, it's horrific, and people will suffer emotionally to face the harshness of reality, but suffering is a prerequisite for growth, and growth is important. 100%, I would 100% agree with you on that, D. I think it's important to learn this, and it's important that we are challenged by this. I think it's an important thing. I would highly recommend this book, but be prepared that you're not going to come out of it in a feel-good mentality.
Yeah.
You're going to be challenged, you're going to think about stuff, you're going to be pushed, and I think that's okay. That's an okay challenge for us today. That's an okay challenge I think that we at Comics in the Cross can leave you with today, is to challenge you with a book. Something we don't get to do that frequently. Not in this sort of way, at least. But a massive thank you to everyone who joined us last week and this week.
Everybody.
Who joined us for our look at Mouse and journeyed through it with us.
It was intense.
Yeah, it's been intense, but it has been absolutely worth it.
Yeah, thanks for suggesting this, dude. That was a really good call.
Yeah, I think this was a good one. When I heard the controversy around it, I'm like, yeah, we have to touch this. We have to, if we can get it, we need to go over it. It's not even a question, and I'm glad we did. This has been my first time reading through it, Nitro's first time reading through it, and yeah, I think it hit me about as much and even more than I've thought it was going.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry we're a bit all over the place today. We kind of had rants and talks and into the book and didn't get as much time into it as I was hoping for due to everything we talked about, but I felt like this was all kind of all encompassing today.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was okay with it. I was okay with it going all over the place because, like you said, it warranted it. So
yeah, I think it was all. That's the thing. I think it was all encompassing of stuff that the rant and the challenge that we went on was stuff that I was challenged with in the book, and thoughts that came out because of the book. And I think that's important to discuss. Like we talked about, discussion about this stuff is important. Talking about this stuff is an important thing. But yeah, so I think that's kind of pretty much it. If you had any last thoughts or anything else on Mouse before we wrap it up, or anything else that...
No, nothing else from my end, man. I'm just glad we got a chance to read it. Really
Yeah.
appreciate you suggesting it. It is not for the faint of heart. It is a very, very intense book, but like you said, I think it's a really important read.
Yeah, I think so. So we would highly recommend that you can pick this up on through Amazon or through your local comic book shop. There may be a little waiting period for it. There may be a little bit of time before you actually get a copy of it in hand yourself, but by all means I would definitely recommend pre-ordering it and checking it out. It's definitely a comic that's worth it and warrants it. That is us for today. We will be back later this week, and tomorrow night Jay might be streaming tomorrow. Keep an eye on our social medias for that. Jay has actually injured her back. That's one of the reasons I was kind of like shuffling off a little bit earlier. Is because she's actually injured her back. She's stuck in bed right now. She still let me come on and do this, but if her back gets better, then she'll be on streaming tomorrow. But if not, then it'll be the following week again. I will be back Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, playing some more Batman Arkham City. Oh, speaking of the missus, there she is in chat. I've been finding bookshops where you can pick it up in your local bookshop as well. From that. Awesome stream. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate it. But yeah, so I'll be back Tuesday night, regardless. 8 o'clock, playing more Batman Arkham City. We may be coming into the ending of it. I say that apprehensively because every time I say that, it takes another 3 weeks to finish a game. So it feels like it might be the end, but I'm not promising anything.
And I'll be back on Thursday.
You're back on Thursday?
I don't know what I'm going to be doing on Thursday, but I will be back.
Redesigning your characters, apparently.
Apparently.
Thank you, Space. I appreciate that, man. Hope your wife gets better soon. Thank you so much, bro. But yeah, if you missed it last Thursday, Nitro started designing some characters for a comic that him and Mrs. Nitro were doing. And he may have to go and tweak some stuff to redo them this week.
Just a bit.
So be with Nitro. He might be redoing that. He might be doing something different, but he's still going to be doing his art stream on Thursday, so join him. Apologies for missing our stream this Friday here. We will not be back this coming Friday with our Sea of Thieves stream because we are actually getting all our flooring on the upper floor of our house done, which means I have to take apart my setup and move it out the road for them so they can get into my office. So Sea of Thieves will not be on this Friday, but we will be back again next Sunday, doing our review of The Batman. Hopefully that'll give everyone enough chance to watch it. It'll give me an opportunity to see it. I have not seen it yet. Nitro got to see it last night. Lucky man.
Got some thoughts.
Got some definite thoughts on it. If you enjoy our thoughts and our thoughts being a little bit different than other people's, then this might be the stream for you. But we will be back 2 o'clock next Sunday talking about the Batman and what we think about Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves' take on the character. So you do not want to miss that. If you want to keep up to date with us off of
I got it.
You got it, good, because I'm typing the wrong thing. I hit the wrong button. So if you want to keep up to date with us off of stream, you can follow us on all of our social media there. You can also hit us up on our Discord. If you want to catch up with anything that you have missed, any previous shows, our podcast is available anywhere that you find podcasts. So whether you listen to iTunes, Spotify, anywhere else, whatever you listen to, you can find it there. Or you can find our podcast, previous game playthroughs, and Nitro's Art of the Hero streams. It can all be found on our YouTube if you want to throw that link up as well, dude. I really want to stream tomorrow because I want to see why I'm killing so viciously so quickly. Yeah, Jay last week started playing Bioshock Infinite, the game that everyone kept saying, "Oh, you need to play it, it's like the best one ever," and like it was so calm for like the first hour. And then out of nowhere, like when there's murder rampages, people are trying to kill you, and I'm like, yeah, we need some storyline to fill that in. But yeah, there's that link for YouTube. Go ahead and follow us on our YouTube page. Drop us a subscribe there if you want to help out the channel, and check out some of our other streams there that you may have missed. I think that's pretty much everything. Yep, and then again, it's a link for our fundraiser for the 12-hour stream. Please hit us up on social media or Discord if you want to be involved or have ideas for it. For our fundraiser, we cannot wait for this 12-hour stream. I always get hyped with 12-hour streams. I get excited, man.
That's going to be fun, man.
I'm excited for us. I'm excited for us crapping ourselves playing Phasmo, to be completely honest. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But thank you so much for everyone who has joined us today. If you're able to, I would love you to hang around. Oh. Yeah, let me bring that over. Let me check that in chat as well again. Like if you want to go and check out Beckett's Last Mixtape from our friend Tom Levine, it's up in Kickstarter for the next few days. There is the link. Go and check it out. Go and drop it. You will not be disappointed. I promise you.
See you, Space Hobo. See you, man.
Oh, yeah, here, Space. Good man. Have a good day, sir. Who is on? We can go drop a raid on.
We are following so many streamers.
I keep following people and I'm like, I don't get the chance to hang out in half of them as I'd want. let's maybe do Lady Hardnoa. She's doing some Sea of Thieves streaming. She's a Sea of Thieves streamer I've started watching the last week or so. She's actually pretty fun to watch. She might even have one of her cosplays, which if she's wearing one of her cosplays, they're phenomenal. Where did she go? I've lost her now. I know how to stream, me does. I know how to do this.
Gotcha.
There she is. Alright. Make sure I find her. So, yeah, let's go. Yep, she's got one of her cosplays on. Fantastic. Alright, let's go show her some love. She is a Sea of Thieves streamer, which if you know us, we are all about Sea of Thieves. She is not family friendly. She is from the UK. She does have a little bit of cussing in her stream. So, just to make you aware, if you're okay for that, phenomenal. If not, you can duck out by all means. But we hope you all have an absolutely amazing day. Hope you all having a great Sunday. Hope it's going well for you.
Yeah, everybody.
Cannot wait to keep up with you all. But remember, it's a good week to be a geek. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you all possibly tomorrow night. If not, see you all Tuesday. Take care, everyone.
Cierra miedo.